what's up YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video game review. And for this review, we're going to be taking a look at Bayonetta 2, if I could get the right. Bayonetta 2 for the Nintendo Switch, along with Bayonetta 1 up here though. What's there to say about Bayonetta? It is a very fun hack and slash series that was originally released, I think, about 10 years ago. I think it was released in 2010, although it might have been released in 2009. Not 100% sure about that though. Well, but it was created by the folks who worked on some of the games that used to work when they worked at Capcom, such as the Devil May Cry series, mostly Devil May Cry, the original one, and Devil May Cry 3 to be exactly though. But the series while the series has certainly gained a following, has certainly gained its fans, it hasn't gained the kind of reputation or the bigger audience that it could have gotten though. And the first one, although sold well, basically didn't sell nearly as well as Sega had hoped for, and thus threw any future of the series in doubt, and basically had Platinum start looking for who could publish the game, because they really wanted to do a sequel. They did shop around, and they even went to Microsoft and Sony at one point, and for whatever reason, they chose not to do it. Whether it was the right or wrong thing, that's open for debate. They went to Nintendo. Nintendo was like, hey, we'll fund it. Make it exclusive to our system. We'll fund it. They said yes, though, and since then, Bayonetta 2 has been an exclusive onto the Nintendo system, much to dismay of some people who have been a bit upset about that. So, and of course it was released on the Wii U, and it did well though, but not hugely as well as the first one did. Some of it had to do with the fact that the Wii U was certainly not the success Nintendo had hoped for. Fast forward to 2018, and the game gets a second chance, released with the first one and with Bayonetta as well, with the all building up for the upcoming release of Bayonetta 3. Hopefully it'll be out this year, but we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, we have Bayonetta 2 to keep us occupied. And so the question is, does this game hold up as it did when it was originally released back in 2014? I think so. I think it still remains a very good game. It's something worth trying out. But why don't we get started with our pros and cons? So why don't we get started with the pros first? We'll start with the first one, and that is the gameplay. One of the things that the game is known for is that it follows similar to what Devil May Cry was. Over-the-top action, solid gameplay, and Bayonetta continues that as well. The game is fast-paced, and it basically requires a lot of, timing and so on, but it definitely maintains that Devil May Cry feel to it. It advances it a little bit though. The first one basically plays closely to the original Devil May Cry, while its sequel improves upon it in terms of better camera angles and so on. But overall, the over-the-top solid gameplay feel is still there, and I think that's a great thing indeed. The next thing I will say is that for this package though, you're getting 2 games for the price of 1 though. You're getting the first Bayonetta and the second Bayonetta as well, so it definitely is a good deal though. The only downside, of course, is that the first Bayonetta is only available as a download, so when you buy the game, they do have a I can't show it though. They do have a code to download the first Bayonetta, but still, it's definitely great that we're getting both Bayonetta games indeed. So it's 2 games for the price of 1, and that's definitely good. And last but not least, regardless of whether you're playing this game docked or undocked, the game runs at a good, solid 60 frames per second, maintaining that fast-paced, over-the-top action that the series is well known for. And I'm glad that it maintains, excuse me, I'm glad it maintains a good, clear 60 frames per second. I think that's a really good thing. And I mean, I'm sure it could run at 30 though, but I would prefer 60 frames. So I'm glad that regardless if you're playing this game docked or undocked, it runs at a clear 60 frames per second, and I definitely like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to the cons of Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, and of course, a new rumor that has popped up regarding the possibility that Final Fantasy 15 might or might not come to the Switch. This thing's been going back and forth indeed. So we'll take a bit of a break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of Bayonetta 2 for the Nintendo Switch, though. And now that I gave you my pros about the game and what I did like, why don't I start with my cons? Let me get my notes out for that one. Alright, so we'll start out with the first con, though, okay? Now, as I mentioned in the pros, though, I did excuse me, I did mention that the game runs at a good 60 frames per second, both dock and undock. Which, don't get me wrong, that's great. I think I would prefer performance and frame rate over visuals any day. And while I will say the visuals in both Bayonetta 2 are by all means not terrible or bad by any stretch at all, it is worth pointing out that the game only runs at 720p, both dock or undocked though. Which, again, while not hugely terrible in any way, I would have liked to see the game run at 1080p when the system was docked though. So again, 720p, not hugely terrible, but it would have been nice to see it run at 1080p though. But still, like I said, I would prefer the frame rate over the visuals, so I'm glad the game holds at a 60 frames per second though, so that's definitely good. Next con I want to talk about is, of course, the original Bayonetta. Now, I do want to point out that I still enjoy the original Bayonetta game. It's still a fun game. It still is an enjoyable game, though. That said, though, there's no denying the fact the game is showing its age a little bit, though. When you look at the combat, though, you can obviously tell that Bayonetta 2 is the more superior when it comes to combat and all that stuff. Some of the visuals the game is showing some of its age as well. After all, keep in mind this came out around 2009, 2010. And I do want to point out though that I did notice in some areas, sometimes depending on how much is going on the screen though, there is the occasional slowdown here and there, at least as far as I'm aware of in Bayonetta 1. I haven't run into that problem, at least as far as I'm aware of in Bayonetta 2, but Bayonetta 1, there were some cases where there was some slowdown during gameplay in some areas, though. Still, I'm not saying Bayonetta, the original Bayonetta, is a bad game, though, but there's no denying that it's showing its age a little bit, though. And the third and final one, and this one's going to be debatable and depending on how you look at it, though. For those who are not familiar, though, the game, at least according to in the back over here, I believe it's right up here to be exact where my finger is pointing, though. The game supports the Amiibo functionality, though, which isn't necessarily bad. Basically, what you could do is you could scan 32 Amiibos in one day to get stuff in the game, though. It's worth pointing out this only works on Bayonetta 2 and not Bayonetta 1, though. And while it's great that the game supports Amiibo support, at the same time, some people are going to view it as cheating because when you scan the Amiibos, you get items, halos to buy stuff, and so on. So some people are going to take it off as cheating, though. I will be guilty as well. I've used the Amiibos before on the Bayonetta 2, so I'm not going to come out here and say I'm not going to come out here and say like, oh, I never used them or anything like that. I have used them. So, I mean, it's great that it shows support, although at the same time, you know, some people will view it as sort of cheating in a way. It is also worth pointing out that you could unlock everything without the Amiibo, so if you don't want to use them, you don't have to. If you want to use them, that's fine. So, great that it has Amiibo support, but like I said, some people are going to feel like it's sort of like cheating as well. Overall, Bayonetta 2 is still a fantastic game in my opinion. In my opinion, though, it's over-the-top action gameplay. Its visuals look great even at 720p. Runs at a clear 60 frames per second, and it maintains that Devil May Cry feel to the game that the original Devil May Cry carried back when that came out in 2001, and the third one in 2005. Those. If you're a fan of the Devil May Cry series, or the God of War series for this matter, you owe it to yourself to give Bayonetta 2 a try, though. And the fact that it comes with the original Bayonetta is great as well. Only downside is that you have to pick up a Nintendo Switch in order to play them, since Nintendo owns pretty much the exclusive rights to Bayonetta 2. After all, they are the ones that did fund Bayonetta 2 as well. So that's only the downside to that. But if you're a fan of those games that I mentioned, it's worth picking up. And I still hold Bayonetta 2 with high regards. That's one of my favorite action games to come out, though, especially during the Wii U generation. I'm glad that they brought the game over to the Switch. Here's to hoping to see Bayonetta 3 can continue it and deliver some good quality action when that game eventually comes out. Hoping it comes out this year, but we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if it's released until next year, to be exact. Alright, before we end this video, I do want to talk about a recent rumor that has recently popped up. And this regarding is Final Fantasy 15 and the continued saga of whether it's coming to the Switch or not. This has gone back and forth last year, to be exact. And now a new rumor popped up. So, according to several sites, according to several articles, I do have one, the link's in the description though, it appears to be that a picture popped up that basically points that Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, it was recently rated for the PS4 and Xbox One, and supposedly a Twitter user snapped proof of it at a local GameStop that was coming to a Nintendo Switch. He wrote, "I know this isn't your doing, but I got a kick out of Final Fantasy 15 being advertised for the Switch by GameStop TV, though." Now, while I'm going to come out and say this, while it's certainly not out of the realm of the possibility that Final Fantasy 15 could come to the Switch, and it is possible that the Royal Edition could come, I'm aware some people say the game struggled on the PS4 and Xbox One and could struggle on the Nintendo Switch as well. But at the same time, seeing how they were able to port Doom over to the Switch, I do think it is possible they could pull it off. Obviously, some optimization and some scaling back and some changes are probably going to happen, though. I'm not if they do try to bring it over, I'm not sure the Pocket Edition would be the right choice, because I think there would be a lot of backlash if that happens, though. Having said all of that, and while I still think it's possible they could bring it over, though, I feel that there is a chance this is going to be nothing more than a typo on GameStop's part. I think this might have been just an error, and they'll probably fix it or something like that. So I don't want to rush and say, oh, Final Fantasy 15 is coming to the Switch. Don't get me wrong, I would love for it to come to the Nintendo Switch, but this sounds like this was sort of an error on GameStop or someone's part, though. But could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see, though. I'm hoping it does come to the Switch, though, but I wouldn't lose sleep if this rumor turned out to be false, to be exact. Okay, this concludes my video review on Bayonetta 2 for the Nintendo Switch, plus my thought on the Final Fantasy 15 rumor. And again, these are my opinions, but what are yours? What are your thoughts about Bayonetta 2, though? Is it worth another double dip again now that the game is being released on the Nintendo Switch, or you don't think they should re-release it again? Do you think this helped build up hype for Bayonetta 3? Have you enjoyed the game as well as much as I do? Have you not enjoyed the game? And what are your thoughts about this new rumor about Final Fantasy 15 coming to the Switch? Do you think it's proof that it is going to come to the Nintendo Switch, or do you feel like what I said earlier, this sounds more like this is just a typo on GameStop's part, though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, and I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good evening then. Bye!